This is a lifestyle. I didn't have to write it. Watch my Hublot and see how the light hit. That's an excerpt from the work of 21st century poet 2 Chainz. Hi everyone and welcome to Shaluso. And today we're going to be talking about Hublot. I'd like to give a big thanks to Timepiece 360 in Dubai for lending in the watch that we're going to be looking at today, and that is the Hublot Big Bang 44mm in steel.
In a world where Rolex is considered a young company and the patricians of the watch world exceed 200 years old, it's difficult to believe that Hublot has achieved the same level of recognition in just 40 years. Hublot came onto the scene as a disruptor in 1980, just 8 years after established luxury brand Audemars Piguet convinced the world that steel could be luxurious. Carlo Crocco's MDM Genève convinced us that rubber could be luxurious by pairing it with his gold Hublot. The bezel bolts may have borrowed from the Royal Oak, but the concept of a luxury watch combining multiple materials on a rubber strap was all Hublot's design. 25 years later, Hublot shocked the world again with the Big Bang. Unashamedly taking inspiration from the Royal Oak offshore, but with Hublot and Jean Claude Biver's flair for the dramatic. At 44mm with a titanium core, steel outer case, ceramic bezel, carbon fiber dial, and a tire tread patterned rubber strap, the Big Bang was a mission statement that Hublot was here to stay. At a time where Frank Muller was still dominating hip-hop lyrics, and Richard Mille's Formula 1 cars for the wrist matched the number of Formula 1 cars on the grid, Hublot had given the world a Ferrari for the wrist long before its eventual tie-up with the prancing horse. This wasn't Hublot's first chronograph, but much like Rolex and Omega, who had made chronographs before their big icons, this was Hublot's 57 Speedmaster, their 62 Daytona, a racing-inspired chronograph that would define the brand that made it. Traditionally, Hublot is known just for its designs, maybe its use of materials, but one of the hidden strengths of the Big Bang is its size-defying ergonomics. You'd imagine that with a 44mm diameter and 14.5mm tall, it would feel like a lead weight on the wrist. But the lightweight rubber strap, titanium inner case, and ceramic bezel all contribute to the weight reduction that defies the size of the Big Bang. The titanium clasp with the Hublot H logo shaping its swing arms serves to tuck in excess strap on the inside of it when on the wrist, providing some cushioning where a normal deploying clasp would dig into the wrist. And the screwed-in rubber strap articulates right down, countering the flare of the case, allowing the Big Bang to fit comfortably on wrists that have no business wearing such a large watch. The on-the-wrist experience defies expectations and is key to the appeal of the Big Bang. Much like Ferrari puts 5-stage traction control in its cars to make sure anyone can drive them, Hublot has engineered the Big Bang to make sure that anyone can wear them. Housed within the 100-meter water-resistant case beats a Sellita SW510. It's a chronograph caliber based on the famed Valjoux 7750 movement with 42 hours of power reserve and a 28.8 beat rate. This lateral clutch, cam-operated chronograph features the registers at 3, 6, and 9 with a quick set date at the 4:30. The chronograph action is crisp on engagement and reset, and while it is still a customer caliber, Hublot still added a skeletonized rotor for greater visibility on what they call the HUB 4100. The choice of the SW510 may mean less prestige, but it also greatly reduces long-term servicing costs compared to if it had an in-house movement. And using the architecture of the 7750 is done for the same reason that several other manufacturers do. It's a reliable movement that shouldn't go wrong, and if it does, it'll be easy to fix. Whatever the Big Bang loses in movement prestige, it hits back with details and finish. The mostly satin finished case has strong character lines and high polish along the flanks, contrasting with the matte black exposed resin, giving it a semi-skeletonized look on the outside. The ceramic bezel has a knurled hobnail pattern all around its edge, while the face is flawlessly polished, catching all the light as it moves. Hublot's signature H screws are high polished and made of titanium, yet another weight-saving measure as they secure the strap, bezel, and clasp. On the dial side, the fusion of textures and materials continues. The bright red chronograph hands are in high contrast to the black and gray carbon fiber pattern of the dial, while the rhodium-plated, faceted baton indices alternate with chunky Arabic numerals. Even the strap features a tire tread pattern, leaving no doubt in mind that this was meant from day one to match the Ferrari Enzo for presence, as well as in its fusion of exotic materials. And much like the DNA of the Enzo can still be seen in 2020, the Big Bang has defined 21st century Hublot.
So that's my thoughts on the Hublot Big Bang. As I mentioned in my video at the beginning of the year, Hublot is a brand that I've wanted to look at for a long time. And a big reason for that is that I grew up hearing about it so much well before I was into watches. Every song I listened to, every rapper was talking about Hublot. For me, that was the brand that I looked up to much more than Rolex. However, at the same token, as I've learned more about watches, I also understand and know that in the watch community, there's a lot of vitriol, hate, whatever you want to call it for the brand. But first, let's get right into the 3 positives and negatives of this watch. And the first thing, of course, I have to highlight, as I do every chance I can, and that is the use of different materials. Obviously, using different materials is part of Hublot's mantra. They call it the art of fusion. Their entire concept and their entire brand is founded on that. In this case, it may be a steel case, but you've also got the rubber strap, you have the ceramic bezel, the carbon fiber style dial, and on the inside you still have a titanium core. And that titanium core is prevalent through all Hublot Big Bangs. And that takes us right into the second positive, and that is the ergonomics. So as I mentioned, there's a titanium core in this watch, and that's just the first level of reducing the weight of this watch. The ergonomics of this watch in general are such that it makes it a real pleasure to wear it on the wrist despite being a big watch. The ceramic on the bezel, the titanium core, mean that this watch isn't as heavy as you would think when you look at it. You look at it and you think it's going to weigh as much as an offshore, for example. But no, with the titanium core, the ceramic bezel, the rubber strap, that all contributes to it being light. And on top of that, the rubber strap will curve right down over a smaller wrist. It has the minderless system with the clasp, which is really, really intuitive and useful. It's very similar to what Omega does with their clasps. And so all of this contributes to the watch just being extremely comfortable. And that's, I think, something that Hublot doesn't really get a lot of credit for, but you can tell they've thought about. And then the last thing that I want to highlight about this particular Big Bang is that it is a piece of watch history. As I mentioned in the voiceover, this in many ways is Hublot's Speedmaster, it's Hublot's Daytona. Much like those two brands, they had made chronographs before they made their icons, but this was their hit. And if you think about it in context, Hublot released this 25 years after it was founded. Rolex released the Daytona 42 years after it was founded. The fact that Hublot managed to get to that point to release its icon so fast demonstrates how quickly Hublot has been able to cement itself as part of the watch world when it was only, 25 years old. When you consider that things like Vacheron are over 200 years old. This is an old company's game, and they were playing in it at a high level. And regardless of what you think of Hublot as a brand, what you think of the Big Bang, you can't negate it is an iconic watch. Maybe in a very different way to the Daytona, for example, but it is still an iconic watch. It's a great way to have a piece of a brand's history. Imagine being able to get a Daytona in the 60s or 70s. Imagine being able to get a Speedmaster, same thing, in the 60s or 70s when it was still new, still available, but it hadn't gotten to that point where it was inaccessible because of its significance. So that's something I think is really cool about the Big Bang. But of course, as cool as all that is, no watch is perfect, and we have to talk about the 3 negatives as well. The first on the list is versatility, or more specifically, lack thereof. It's limited in versatility in that you can't really use it for much more than being casual. I will say that there are some people who will wear this with a suit, and that's a very small niche of people, I think, and those are people who really want to make a statement. But for the most part, let's face it, if you do need to wear a suit for work or if you have a lot of formal occasions, between the size and the style, it's a sporty watch, it's a casual watch, so it's definitely limited by its styling in terms of its versatility. Secondly was the rotor noise. Throughout the time that I was filming this, I kept hearing the rotor, and that's something that for me, I always feel for some reason that you shouldn't be hearing the rotor of your watch unless you have your ear right next to it. Maybe it's just to do with the construction. I do know that titanium is sometimes used in things like minute repeaters because it makes it resonate more, so maybe that titanium core is contributing to that. Whatever it is, it was a little bit unnerving hearing the rotor whenever I moved the watch around, so I have to point that out as well. And then the last thing I need to mention in terms of the negatives, while it's not a negative for me personally, but I do know that it is something that puts off a lot of people, and that is that the screws are misaligned. Now, for a watch that retails at around 13,000 US, most people will say that that's completely unacceptable, and they will call to reference the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. However, I will point out that in the AP, those are actually the ends of bolts. The screws are on the back. So if you look at the back of a Royal Oak, for example, you'll see all those screws are going to be misaligned as well. The reason why they look aligned on the front is because those are static bolts within that hexagonal shape. Whereas with the Hublot, those are screws on the front. If you want to achieve proper alignment, you would have to calibrate and test the exact amount of torque for each screw. There will be a lot of engineering to go into just aligning the screws. And that's something that you get on a Richard Mille, which costs 10 times what the Big Bang costs. But I do recognize it is something that puts people off, and at this price point, they want to see aligned screws, so I have to flag it. But overall, I think this is a very cool watch. And like I said in the positives, I really do like the idea that this is part of a brand's history. Most of us are too young to remember, or even in my case, be alive when the Daytona came out, when the original Speedmasters came out. And like I said, especially if you grew up around the same time as me, the importance of Hublot as a brand, as an icon, it definitely does have its effect. And I think that Hublot will continue to be a big player, especially as they continue to improve their watchmaking side as well and as they evolve as a brand. However, we do need to address the elephant in the room, which is the price. Price is often something that people have an issue with when it comes to Hublot, especially with these models like this, with the Classic Fusion, which don't use in-house movements, because they're still very expensive. And this in steel and ceramic retails at $13,600 US. I mean, at that price point, to give you an idea, you can get an Unico in the 42mm for $18,000. And that at least has an in-house movement, and it's a flyback as well. The only reason I can imagine that it costs what it does now is because this is a watch that's been around since 2005. They're not going to lower the price. When you look at it in the context of when it was released, it was probably decent value with whatever its original MSRP was, and it's simply gone up with inflation over the years because it's remained in production, it's remained on sale. On the pre-owned side, however, is where I really do see the value in this watch. When you look at the pre-owned value, you can get one of these for as low as $6,700 US, up to about $12,900 US, and obviously that's going to depend on condition and what year it's from. The older it is, the cheaper it's probably going to be. You're still getting a $13,000 watch. You're still getting the same quality as the one being produced today. However, you are getting it at a much more competitive price point, and because it's a Valjoux 7750 base movement, it is still going to be relatively cheap to service. So you can have that luxury experience, you can have that magic of having an Hublot for much less than you would if you had bought it new. And yes, you can say, well, there are plenty of other 7750 based movements and watches that you can get for much cheaper than that. And a few examples of that I've actually reviewed on this channel. There's the Tag Heuer Carrera Caliber 16, the IWC Pilot's watch. Both of those will cost less even than this pre-owned. And they're both very, very good watches for their own reasons as outlined in those reviews. However, I would say that definitely if you're after that magic, neither of them can really compete for the sensation of getting an Hublot if that's what you want. This is a lifestyle. I didn't have to write it. Look at my Hublot and watch how the light hit. It says it all. This watch is about a lifestyle, and if you want to buy into that lifestyle, it definitely does deliver on that sensation. But in any case, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the Hublot Big Bang? Do you think it's overpriced even at its pre-owned rate? What do you think about the fact that it's been in continuous production since 2005? Is it time for them to retire it, or should they keep it because it's such an integral part to their history? Let me know in the comments below, and of course a big thanks to Timepiece 360 in Dubai for lending in this watch for me to review. Make sure you check out their links in the description below, and of course if you are in Dubai, make sure you go and check their store out as well. And of course, if you like this video, please do like it and share it. If you want to see all of the infographics and pictures featured in the video, then make sure you follow me on Instagram at Shaluso. If you want to keep seeing new watch videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And of course, thank you for watching this video, and we'll catch you on the next one.